So your social distance is 7 skunks. That's 7 average-sized skunks, not 7 large skunks. But we need to maintain social distance at all times, even in a state park, even though you're outdoors. And we're asking you to wear masks. So if you look out here, my eyes are watering. There's a cold wind here. We're going to walk along the marsh a little bit. You can see we've already done a program on Phragmites. So this is Phragmites right here. If you'd like to see the previous programs, you can go to the Meigs Point Nature Center website, meigspointnaturecenter.org. Go to the Virtual Learning Center, and you will get to see the previous programs that we've done. And one of those is talking about Phragmites. So, my first job out of college for the state parks was here at Rocky Neck State Park. And one of the things that I did when I started, I was a member of the Connecticut Conservation Corps, the CCC back then. That was its second generation of the Conservation Corps. It changed over the years. But one of the things I did was I built this deck. Well, I helped build this deck. It was really cool to be able to do that. And then when I started working in nature centers, I worked at the nature center here for many years before I went to Hammonasset. But I learned a really valuable lesson. I came out here and I was doing an entire program on the salt marsh. And I was talking about the animals that live there, and I mentioned that green heron are commonly found in this salt marsh. So the entire program, I'm going and I'm looking at a stick sticking in the mud over here. At the end of the program, some of the people were starting to head away, and I'm looking at the stick saying, you know, that stick has never been there before. And then it moved. It was a little green heron. So I learned that if you're patient and observant, wait for that movement, you're going to notice a lot more things. With this program, the longer I stood here, the more things would pop out. So we're really early in the year. You can see the marsh hasn't really begun to grow in yet. But I'm going to say again, this is Rocky Neck State Park, the first place I worked for the DEEP. And going through the middle of this marsh is Bride Brook. And I'm going to tell you the story of what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to switch the camera around so that you can look out into the marsh, into the Bride Brook, while I tell you the story of Bride Brook. So the story goes that in the winter of 1646 or 47, the records are a little bit sketchy on exactly when, but it was that winter. It was very, very cold, lots of snow. And this brook was the dividing line between the Saybrook colony, or the Saybrook County, and New London County. So New London County would have been on the right, Saybrook County on the left. Saybrook County was part of the Connecticut colony, and New London County was part of the Massachusetts colony. So in this winter, Jonathan Rudd wanted to get married. And the snow was so deep that the magistrate to perform the ceremony was not able to make it down to where he was from. He was from Old Saybrook, and they couldn't get there. So he reached out to try and find another magistrate that could perform this ceremony. He wanted to marry a woman named Mary. And we don't know her last name. There's a couple of guesses as to her last name, but we never found out for sure what Mary's last name is. Metcalf, I know, was one of the thoughts, but there was another one as well. So they reached out in Saybrook Colony to marry them. But they did find someone in Saybrook County, in New London County. But that was the Massachusetts colony. And his name was Jonathan Rudd. That was the junior. His father was the governor of the Massachusetts colony. So they reached out to him and asked if he could perform the ceremony. The problem was that his jurisdiction only went as far as the dividing line between the two colonies. So he agreed that he would perform the ceremony. He asked that the bride and groom, Jonathan Rudd and Mary, meet him on the edge of Bride Brook, and he would come and he would stand on the New London County side, which was Massachusetts, and they would stand on the old Saybrook side, or the Saybrook colony, which was Connecticut, and he would perform the ceremony because he didn't have jurisdiction in the other colony. So that is how it came to be that this was called Bride's Brook, with the bride and the groom on one side. And I want to read you a little quote that I found. Someone did a research on this, and they came up with a quote written about the wedding that happened. It says, "Never perhaps was the rite performed in a situation so wild and solitary, under circumstances so interesting and particular." And then they says that's how the stream got its name, Bride's Brook. So I found that very interesting. Also, when John Winthrop came, he did not come alone. It says that a friendly cavalcade accompanied him with the bridal party. So he came from New London, the bridal party from Saybrook, and it says, quote, "A few wild faces peering curiously from the woods made the company sufficient to relieve the wilderness of its silence and solitude." So I take that to mean that they were partying pretty good in the woods during the bridal ceremony. After the ceremony, they went to a house that is not far from here, and on the New London side, and had a little bit of a party. So very interesting. I also found out that Jonathan Rudd did a lot of things. He was a farmer, a leather worker, he was a soldier, and he actually got in trouble as a soldier. They said that he was drinking and kept a dirty gun while on duty. So he may not have been the most conscientious soldier. Another thing that's really special here at Rocky Neck, if you look over, you can see there's a little bridge over there. A couple of people are walking. They're going to be passing soon an osprey platform. One of the things that happened when I was working here, a great horned owl occupied that platform before the osprey arrived, and it was really special to be able to see. Usually you don't see great horned owls nesting in the wide open like that. This is the new osprey platform over here. So we got it away from that trail. That was one of the problems, is we used to have to close the trail down. And I don't know if you can see it. I can't zoom in with, can I? No, maybe a little bit. Here we go. If we look right there, there is an osprey on that platform, and it was calling earlier. So it's hard to hold the camera stable there. So this is the salt marsh here at Rocky Neck State Park. Someone's asking, cool story, can people get married here now? There is actually a pavilion here at Rocky Neck where wedding receptions happen, and there's a big oak tree up on a hill, and I've seen a few weddings performed there. So yes, people do get married here and at other state parks. State parks are a great place to get married. I appreciate it if you're asking questions or making comments, put up where you're from. I like to see how far this program's reaching. I'm going to walk a little bit. You can see here's a nice oak tree, little birch. Nice, beautiful birch there. I'm going to try and get it stable here. There we go. Here's a squirrel up in front of me. So down here there's a Canada goose. Make sure you say Canada goose. They're not Canadian. Okay, and you can see there's a bridge over there. I actually worked on the bridge that was before that bridge. I had to rebuild that bridge, and then they tore it down and put a new one in. So I'm going to flip the camera back around. One of the things that I want to do, there's another location here, actually a couple. So it's a bit of a walk. I'm going to take a walk up to that other location, and I'll do another Facebook Live in probably say a half an hour if anybody wants to tune back in. If not, you can go to meigspointnaturecenter.org and you'll get to see the next program. We'll archive it in the Virtual Learning Center at meigspointnaturecenter.org. It'll be on YouTube as well. The Meigs Point Nature Center YouTube channel has all of our videos. So, do we have any other questions? I'm not seeing any questions. I hope you guys are enjoying all of these programs. I want to remind you that the Nature Center is closed, but the parks are open. As long as you follow the social guidelines, it's closed off for a reason. So stay out of the areas that are closed. We're trying to keep people separate. So any area where people might gather too much together, might get too tight. If those areas are closed, make sure you maintain them. There's also on the Meigs Point Nature Center website, we've got a Leave No Trace pamphlet up there about things that you can do to leave no trace while you're out during this quarantine time. So talking about wearing a mask, staying away from people, following guidelines, expect closures, parks. Parks may close. You never know. So what happened to the baby owls? The owls, I think you're talking about the nest that was here. All right, I'm going to flip the camera back around because we're coming up to our little, this is the crabbing deck here at Rocky Neck. This goes right over Bride Brook, so we'll get a closer look at Bride Brook. I don't know if we'll see any crabs at this time of year. This is too early for blue crabs and probably too cold for a lot of other things. I want to come back later in the year and do down below here. There's a nice little shallow area where we used to catch crabs and eels and all sorts of things. So we might come back and show you guys all the things that live. Now this is a brackish water brook. Bride Brook is above here. It's fresh water if you go all the way. The brook isn't very long. It's only, I think, 3 miles tops. But way up, it's a freshwater brook that flows down and mixes with the salt water. Okay. There's a little sandbar there that builds up. Yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot in Bride Brook today. Let's go look on this side. There's some algae growing. Algae is always nice to see. All right. I see that Ernie is watching. Ernie and I worked here together a very long time ago. I think that everybody that I worked with here at Rocky Neck has retired. So, give you an idea how long ago it was. This is the salt marsh. I mentioned that I had to work on, before this bridge, the bridge was wooden and we were putting new planking down on the bridge. And one of the guys that I was working with during break wandered out into the marsh over here and sank up to his waist. And it took 3 of us to get him out. He was a big guy and he got suctioned right in. And it was tough to get him out of the salt marsh. So one of the really good into a salt marsh, aside from state park salt marshes being protected, is that you can sink. It's very soft, squishy mud. Okay, I'm going to sign off right now, and I'm going to head over to Baker. I'll do a little short program from Baker's Cave in, let's say, 15 minutes. If you tune back in, hopefully I can get there in 15 minutes. I should be able to. So I'll, if anybody wants to tune back in, do it in 15 minutes. If not, you can go to meigspointnaturecenter.org and look in the archive and see all of the programs there. So we will see you soon.